American English, American English. Teach and learn American English.
Hi, and welcome to Teaching Tips from American English. These short professional development videos share current practical knowledge and classroom ideas for EFL teachers around the globe. In the 3 videos for this teaching tip topic, Tabitha Kidwell explains how to increase student motivation and achievement through culturally relevant language teaching techniques. This 3rd video examines how to facilitate culturally relevant teaching activities while also outlining some culturally relevant activities you can use with your students. Welcome back, Tabitha.
Hi, I'm Tabitha, and I'd like to welcome you back to part 3 of this series on culturally relevant teaching. Let's get started. In the last 2 videos, I talked about building healthy relationships with students and using culturally relevant materials. Now, we'll build on that to talk about culturally relevant activities. That means choosing activities that support and relate to students' own cultures. The goal of this video is to show you how to facilitate culturally relevant activities with your students. Now, I'm guilty of this myself, but sometimes English teachers plan activities like, pretend you're a doctor. What would you say to your patient? Well, that might be a good activity to give advice and use modal verbs like should, unless you're teaching English for specific purposes to nurses or doctors. It doesn't relate to most students' lives. If teachers plan activities that are similar to what students do in their lives outside of school, it will help build a bridge of meaningfulness between home and school experiences. Students need to learn knowledge and skills that they can actually apply in their own lives. For example, reading a video game blog or a recipe. And every student needs to have some experiences of success in your class, including many different types of activities like music, art, or physical movement, can help students who have different multiple intelligences feel as successful as the students who really excel at language use. That can be a big motivator. Students are more motivated to engage in an activity once they see the relevance of what they're doing. One idea is to incorporate youth culture into your classroom by asking students to use genres that they're very familiar with, like emails, text messages, tweets, or status updates. You could start every class with students writing and orally sharing a short status update if your students love Facebook. Or you can teach English texting abbreviations like LOL and TTYL, and have students write short text messages to each other in English, either on their phones or just on small papers that they pass to each other. Another idea is to let students provide the relevance by using open-ended questions that allow students to talk about things that are interesting to them. Rather than asking close-ended yes or no questions like, do you play video games? Or, do you have brothers and sisters? Try to design your questions to be more open-ended, like, what do you like to do in your free time? Or, tell me about your family. That way, students can choose to give responses that are more meaningful to them. As much as possible, rather than telling students to write about some strange topic, have them write about what they know best, themselves and their lives. They will definitely be more interested in this and more motivated to write. A last idea is to build lessons around student choice. I'm going to expand on the pretend you're a doctor example that I mentioned earlier to explain how that might look. If you want students to practice giving advice and using the modal verb should, rather than requiring all students to pretend to be a doctor and write advice to their patients, you can provide additional options that relate to student interests. Students who like to play football can write suggestions about how to get in better shape. Students who like fashion can write about what people should and should not wear. Students who are passionate about the environment can write about what people should do to avoid pollution. And students who just like spending time with friends can write about how to be a good friend. Another example I've used in the past is what I call old-fashioned Twitter. This makes a traditional brainstorming or question-answering activity more interesting by framing it in a way that is more appealing to young, tech-savvy students. For this activity, give each student several sticky notes and display questions on chart paper around the room. Students should write their answers on the Post-its and stick them on the posters to answer. This is similar to Twitter because response length is limited, so it makes the activity more approachable for students, as well as connecting it to something students enjoy doing outside of class. I've found that this framing of the activity makes students enjoy writing and sharing their answers more. Summing up, today we talked about using culturally relevant activities in class. When planning activities, try to think of ways you can adapt them to make them more meaningful to students. Doing so will help increase student motivation and interest. If you missed the other videos in this series, be sure to go back and watch them to learn about culturally relevant relationships and materials. That concludes this video series about culturally relevant teaching. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Tabitha, for another fantastic presentation. To check out other great teaching tip videos, be sure to subscribe to our American English YouTube channel. You can find resources for teachers on the American English website by clicking on the link listed here. And if you haven't already, be sure to like us on the American English for Educators Facebook page.